Imagine you're walking through a frozen forest nearly 20,000 years ago. No cities, no roads, no farms, just endless wilderness. Every sound could mean food or death. As the sun disappears behind the trees, you finally reach your camp. A small fire pushes back the darkness, but only just enough. Beyond its light, the world belongs to something else. Then, you hear it. A twig snaps. Your hand instantly tightens around your spear. Two glowing eyes appear in the darkness. A wolf. It doesn't growl, it doesn't charge, it just watches. For a few long seconds, neither of you moves. Then the wolf turns around and disappears back into the night. It seems like a completely ordinary moment, but some scientists believe moments like this quietly change the future of our species. Because if that wolf had acted differently, or if that human had thrown their spear, your best friend today might still be one of the deadliest predators on Earth. So how did wolves become dogs? Most people think they already know the answer. An ancient hunter found some wolf pups, raised them, tamed them, and eventually, dogs were born. It's a great story. The only problem is, it probably never happened. In fact, modern science suggests something far stranger. Humans may not have started the process at all. The wolves did. And once you understand why, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. To understand this story, we first have to understand wolves. Ancient wolves weren't lonely animals wandering around looking for human friends. They were highly intelligent hunters. They lived in packs, worked together, protected their territory, and they were incredibly good at surviving without us. So why would a predator at the very top of the food chain ever choose to get close to humans? The answer wasn't friendship, it was survival. Thousands of years ago, humans were becoming better hunters. Stone tools improved. Hunting strategies became smarter. Groups worked together to bring down massive animals that a single person could never kill alone. But after every successful hunt, something valuable was left behind. Bones, fat, organs, pieces of meat nobody wanted. To us, it was garbage. To a hungry wolf, it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. Night after night, the smell drifted through the forest. And eventually, a few wolves got curious. Not the biggest wolves, not the strongest, not even the bravest. The curious ones, the ones willing to take one extra step toward a campfire while the rest of the pack stayed hidden in the trees. Imagine how risky that decision was. These strange creatures carried fire. They threw sharp sticks with deadly accuracy. They hunted animals much larger than themselves. Getting too close could mean death, but staying hungry could also mean death. So one wolf took the chance, then another, and slowly, something unexpected began to happen. The wolves that could tolerate humans found food more easily. They survived harsh winters more often. They raised more pups. Meanwhile, the wolves that stayed far away had a much harder life. No one planned this. No one was breeding wolves. Nature was making the choice all by itself. Generation after generation, the least fearful wolves became more common. Not because they were smarter, not because they were stronger, simply because they weren't as terrified of humans. At first, the difference would have been almost impossible to notice. A wolf that stayed a few seconds longer near camp. A wolf that ran away a little later than the others. A wolf that could ignore the sound of human voices. Tiny differences. But evolution has never needed giant changes. It only needs enough change, repeated thousands of times. And after centuries, those tiny differences started adding up. Without realizing it, humans had accidentally begun changing one of the world's greatest predators. But here's where the story becomes even stranger, because the wolves weren't the only ones changing. Humans were changing too. Think about it. If the same calm wolves kept appearing near your camp, and they never attacked, eventually, someone would stop seeing them as enemies. Maybe one hunter tossed a leftover bone instead of chasing them away. Maybe a child noticed the wolves always barked before another predator appeared. Maybe an old hunter realized the wolves somehow smelled danger long before people did. At first, it probably wasn't trust, it was tolerance, a silent agreement. You stay over there, and we'll stay over here. But that invisible line between humans and wolves became smaller every generation. Then one day, someone crossed it. No history book tells us who that person was. We don't know their name, we don't know where they lived, but somewhere in the ancient world, a human chose not to throw a spear, and that simple decision may have changed history forever, because once humans realized these animals could actually be useful, everything accelerated. The wolves warned camps when strangers approached. They smelled predators hiding in the darkness. They helped track wounded animals after a hunt. Suddenly, keeping these unusual wolves nearby wasn't just interesting, It was smart. Both species had discovered something neither could achieve alone. But just when it looked like the story was solved, scientists uncovered a discovery that completely changed our understanding of domestication. It wasn't made by studying wolves. It came from an entirely different animal, a fox. And what researchers found was so unexpected, it finally explained how wolves could transform into dogs without anyone ever planning it. The answer came thousands of years later, not from wolves, but from foxes. In the 1950s, a Russian scientist wanted to answer a question nobody had been able to explain. How does a wild animal become domestic? Was it something humans taught them, or was something much deeper happening? To find out, he began one of the most unusual experiments ever conducted. Every generation of foxes, he picked only one trait. Not speed, not size, not intelligence, just one, the friendliest foxes. The ones that showed the least fear of humans. Those foxes were allowed to have babies. Then he repeated the process. Again and again. What happened next shocked everyone. The foxes didn't just become calmer. Their ears started to flop over, their tails curled, white patches appeared on their fur, their faces became softer. Some even began wagging their tails when people walked into the room. It was as if they were slowly turning into dogs, but no one had selected those features. Scientists had only selected for one thing: friendliness. It was the first real evidence that changing an animal's behavior could also change its body, and suddenly, the mystery of dogs made much more sense. Perhaps ancient wolves didn't slowly become dogs because humans were trying to redesign them. Perhaps becoming calmer unlocked a chain reaction that changed everything else: their appearance, their behavior, even the way they thought. And that's where the story takes another surprising turn. Because dogs didn't just become friendlier than wolves, they became better at understanding us than almost any other animal on Earth. Here's a simple experiment. Point at something across the room. Most dogs will immediately look where you're pointing. It seems normal, but wolves usually don't. Even wolves raised by humans from birth often struggle to understand something that comes naturally to a family dog. Think about how incredible that is. A dog doesn't speak your language, yet somehow it understands what you're trying to tell it. And that's only the beginning. Dogs constantly watch our faces. They notice where we're looking. They pay attention to our voices. Some studies even suggest they can recognize certain human emotions. But perhaps the strangest discovery happens when a dog simply looks into your eyes. Your brain releases a chemical called oxytocin. It's often called the bonding hormone. Parents release it when they look at their children. Dogs release it too. In other words, the connection you feel with your dog isn't just in your imagination. It's built into both of your brains. Thousands of years of evolution created that moment, and the more humans relied on dogs, the stronger that connection became. Soon, dogs weren't just living near people, they were living with them. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient graves where humans and dogs were buried side by side, not thrown together, carefully placed together. Some dogs were laid beside their owners as if they were still protecting them. Think about what that tells us. Life back then was brutally difficult. Food was never guaranteed. Every day was a fight to survive, yet people still chose to honor their dogs after death. That wasn't just survival anymore, that was love. Long before written history, long before kingdoms, long before cities, the friendship between humans and dogs had already begun. But humans weren't finished changing dogs. Now they started doing it on purpose. Some dogs became expert hunters, others guarded villages, some watched over sheep, others pulled sleds across frozen landscapes. Generation after generation, people selected dogs that were best at each task. Over thousands of years, one animal became hundreds. Fast dogs, tiny dogs, massive dogs, dogs with incredible noses, dogs built for speed, dogs built for strength. Every breed you see today traces its story back to those curious wolves that once stood just outside a campfire. And maybe that's the most incredible part of all. Most domesticated animals were changed because humans needed something: milk, meat, wool, labor. But dogs became something entirely different: partners, protectors, friends. And in many ways, they shaped us just as much as we shaped them. Some researchers believe early humans hunted more successfully because of dogs. Others believe dogs helped protect camps while people slept. Some even argue they helped humans spread into new environments that would have been much harder to survive alone. If that's true, then dogs didn't just change history, they helped create it. Which brings us back to that frozen night, 20,000 years ago. A human standing beside a fire, a wolf standing beyond the light. Neither one knew what would happen next. Neither one understood they were beginning one of the longest partnerships in the history of life. One chose not to attack, the other chose not to run away. And somewhere between those two decisions, everything changed. Today, millions of years of evolution tell wolves to fear humans, yet your dog races to the front door the moment it hears your footsteps. It waits for you, trusts you, misses you, not because someone trained the very first dog to do that, but because thousands of generations slowly built a friendship unlike anything else in nature. Every wag of a tail, every muddy paw print across your floor, every excited greeting when you come home is a reminder of a partnership that began beside a forgotten campfire thousands of years ago, a partnership that survived ice ages, crossed continents, outlived kingdoms, and is still growing stronger today. So the next time your dog curls up beside you, remember, you're not just looking at a pet. You're looking at one of the greatest success stories in evolution, a story that began with a hungry wolf, a curious human, and one small choice. That changed the world forever. If you enjoyed this journey into the ancient past, don't forget to subscribe. We explore the hidden stories, forgotten discoveries, and incredible moments that shaped humanity long before history books were written. Thanks for watching.